Disturbing images from Minneapolis tonight. Authorities say a man who was cutting down a tree was shot in the neck by his own neighbor. Authorities say the victim had called police 19 times about his neighbor's threats. Here's Alex Perez.
Tonight, a suspect now in custody after this disturbing video. Police say it shows Minneapolis homeowner Davis Moturi trimming a tree outside his house when suddenly he's shot from above and collapses. That gunfire allegedly coming from the next-door neighbor, John Sawchek, who authorities say had been harassing Moturi for over a year. Moturi speaking from his hospital bed.
It was a very traumatic moment. Not only shot, but shot in your neck. And the people are fighting to save your life.
Sawchuk facing attempted murder and assault charges that court documents say were motivated in whole or in part because of Moturi's race. According to the criminal complaint, the suspect engaged in almost constant harassment of the victim and his wife since they purchased their home in September 2023. The couple calling police 19 times.
It ruined so many nights, so many days and evenings.
That tree near the property line. In the past, the suspect allegedly telling the victim, "Touch my tree again and I'll kill you." Minneapolis police facing criticism for not arresting Sawchuk sooner, and this controversial comment.
The situation escalated in part by actions that were precipitated by the victim.
But the chief later saying they failed the victim after dozens of unsuccessful attempts to arrest Sawchek.
We failed this victim. He should not have been shot.
And David, authorities say the suspect suffers from mental illness and owned several firearms. He's due in court tomorrow.
The case against John Sawchek was recently put on pause after he was deemed mentally unfit to stand trial. He's the man charged with attempting to murder his next-door neighbor in Minneapolis last year, that is. For months before the shooting, Davis Moturi, who was black, said he tried to get help from the police to no avail. His white neighbor's racist harassment became more aggressive. And as Kari Spencer reports, Moturi continues to recover from that.
6 months have passed, but for Moturi, there is no going back to normal. Though the house next door remains boarded and vacant, it doesn't always feel that way.
Now at night, if I have my headphones down, I hear a noise, I have to take it off and check the cameras and it's like John is still there. I know he's not, but it still feels like there's a threat.
John Sawchek remains in custody, but that's no comfort. Moturi says he's struggling with PTSD and constant exhaustion. He used to be the guy making all of the weekend plans, but he just wants to stay in now. He hasn't been able to go back to work.
It makes me feel like I'm not who I was previously, and I'm just constantly stressed, grinding my teeth, and then I'm in pain.
That pain continues to keep him up at night, he says. Then, during the day, every ache, every cop car he sees reminds him of what happened.
I don't want to be angry all the time, I don't want to be able to be present and hang out and feel safe. I feel like a lot of that was taken from me.
Though he has anger toward the man who tormented him for more than a year, Moturi says most of it is toward MPD and the city. According to court docs, Moturi called the police at least 19 times leading up to the shooting.
It was hell, and I tried so hard to get help, and it just went nowhere.
Over the course of several months, Moturi reported his neighbor threatening to kill him and calling him racist slurs. He reported his neighbor shoving feces in his mail slot, blaring air horns outside his bedroom window, attacking him with a shovel, raising knives at him, aiming guns. When he called the police, they would show up late, if at all, and they would always say the same thing. Because the neighbor was no longer outside, they couldn't do anything.
This man tried to kill me, and they're just okay, well, here's a blue card. You should just move. And it's like, wait, what? Like, he's trying to kill me. And they just didn't care. And I know I didn't have the right complexion for protection.
It wasn't until more than 9 months in that Sawchuk was charged with a felony by warrant for threats of violence. And Moturi says that only came after his wife, who was white, reported being threatened. But that didn't lead to an arrest. Months later, about a year after it all began, Moturi was shot. The bullet broke 2 of his ribs and lodged near his spine. Soon after, Sawchuk was charged with attempted murder and harassment stemming from racial bias. Yet, he remained free.
After I got shot, I was thinking like, oh, finally, they'll get him. You know, I felt relieved. I'm like, oh, finally, they'll get him and he'll be out of there. And, you know, but when I realized there wasn't, like, my heart dropped.
It took about 5 days for MPD to arrest Sawchuk during a SWAT operation that ultimately resolved when officers said they would gas Sawchuk's house if he didn't exit. Back in the Lyndale neighborhood, Moturi continues to recover from the shooting and everything that led up to it.
It was just me, you know. I had to protect myself. When my wife wanted to go do yard work, I had to be on guard. I had to have my cameras up. I had to be good and ready to go. I had to have my shoes on, you know, because I know it's just me, myself, and I. And that's who's coming to protect us.
MPD has completed their own review of how officers handled the case, but won't speak on what they found until an independent review from the city auditor's office is complete. Kari Spencer, NPR News, Minneapolis.